Hello and welcome to changeworkers.com. I'm Joe Ko.
And I am Alan Whitten.
And what are we talking about today, Al?
Well, I think we're going to have a smorgasbord of interventions or non-interventions for people who struggle with things like public speaking or, nervousness or anxiety or anxiousness. It comes by many names. And I think, in our little sort of pre-chat, one thing that struck me is that there's no right way, there's no sort of holy grail. There seems to be lots of different ways that are available as interventions, if you like, for different people. And not, some people might like an NLP approach, some people might like a hypnosis approach, and some people might like a more mindfulness approach. I like that. I like the fact that there is a choice.
Yeah. The thing about public speaking anxiety for me is that it taps into so much about, I'm sounding philosophical here, but it's so much about the human condition because you've got the fear of being judged.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got the fear of being judged by your peers, the fear of being judged by some inner authority figure who once told you when you were 5 that, you were no good. There can be that. There's the performance anxiety. Am I going to be able to do this? There's the ability, whether you can get into a flow state. Because after all, unless you're reading every single word in your presentation from a sheet, which most people don't recommend you do, because then you'll come across as being stilted. There has to be an element of trusting the process of what, as hypnotherapists, we might say is trusting your unconscious mind, which is not some woo-woo way of thinking of it. It's a simple reality that when you begin a presentation, when you begin a speech, you do not know every single word that you're going to say. It's not as if at the start of the presentation, you have 2,000 words in your head. You just know what you're about to say.
Yeah.
And then you discover it's a bit like walking on a path around your local town that you already know quite well. So that leads to that, that leads to that, that leads to that. But you don't have to have it all in your head to begin with.
No, I agree. And, the idea of trusting yourself is is really interesting because if I was to say to you, okay, Joe, I'd like you right now to trust yourself, to actually to try to formalize that into some sort of conscious process would be quite difficult, I would imagine. Okay, I'm going to trust myself. And then it's like a one-shot thing. And then when it's done, it's done. For me, it's more of a case of just, trusting yourself is just, drawing a line and then letting yourself be in the moment and in the knowledge that your experience is going to come to bear, that your knowledge of what you're speaking about is going to come to bear and flow through you. I think animals are very good. Animals don't really seem to have sort of like performance anxiety or anything like that. They're just like, if they're hunting or if they're in any kind of state, they're just in the moment. Animals are fantastic for being in the moment. And I think really, it's because we have got this convoluted brain of ours, we say, okay, well, I'm going to trust myself. And then it's just a matter of just being in the moment and, just opening the mouth and let come out what is useful information. And, you might get the odd word mixed up and all the rest of it. But the good thing is, it's like, so what? Let's say you flummox a word. Nobody died,
No. And it makes you more human. It makes you more human as a presenter, more relatable too as a presenter. Well, I'm venturing into politics here, which is A, dangerous territory, and B, if you're not in Britain right now either, this might be totally irrelevant to you. But just briefly, there's a new leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, and what a lot of people find appealing about him, whatever you think of his policies, is that he comes across as being less slick, less polished, less shaped and spun by a team of people monitoring every word he says than a lot of the recent politicians that we've had. And that does speak to people. Whatever you think of his policies or of him as a person, his way of communicating lacks gloss, and that's in a really good way. And if you allow yourself to be human and to relate to people as you're speaking, rather than thinking that you have to be some slick superhuman, every word perfect presenter, that by cutting yourself some slack like that, you'll relax more, you'll be more relatable too. And I think what you were just saying about allowing the words to flow through you, again, sounds a bit hippie almost, but that's exactly how it works. Think that actually writing and being able to write things down is a relatively recent development in human history. If you take the whole of human history, we only learnt to fossilize our words and write them down at a relatively late stage, and that before that the way we communicated to each other was spontaneous, was through stories we'd heard that then become shaped and updated and molded as we're speaking them unconsciously and instinctively. So stories would be passed on through the generations, but they would shift with each retelling. They would change, and that's how we communicate. It's wired into you. It's in your DNA. It's in your genes to be a speaker, to be a communicator. And when you know stories, when you have experiences, when you know facts, they flow through you, and you can communicate them to an audience without having necessarily to have everything written down. Now, I just want to set a frame around everything that we're doing in this video, which is that we are building to to a point here, which is that both Al and I would like to offer a couple of very, very specific practical techniques that you can use to help yourself be more comfortable, be more effective, and be more engaging as a public speaker. And that these techniques can work at any level of your development as a public speaker, whether it's that you're just hoping you make it through a 5-minute presentation and you're terrified of getting the words wrong, or whether you want to refine and improve and develop as a speaker, because we can all improve. I mean, it's funny, I sometimes think of myself as being a fairly confident public speaker, but I always remember a few years back, I was teaching on a hypnotherapy diploma course, a 1-year course, and I'd given a whole bunch of different presentations and lectures to the previous year's students, and got very, comfortable doing it, and I could just stroll up in front of the podium, the lectern, and so I was on the podium in front of this about 80 people. And I was quite happily telling stories and thinking, I'm public speaking, something I've got quite good at here. I'm quite comfortable with this. And then the next year students came in January, and there were 18 new faces in front of me, and my palms were suddenly sweating, my heart was racing, my stomach felt queasy, and I really thought, what the hell is going on here? I thought I had this sorted. And the nerves were there again, because it was a new sea of faces. That seemed to be the trigger that meant I felt less comfortable with it. Now, I didn't let those feelings overwhelm me, because I knew enough about mindfulness, about self-hypnosis, to be able to relax with those nerves and to just, nudge myself into a state of confidence while still having those butterflies. It wasn't that I, went, oh, go away, nerves. It was just relaxing with them and then being able to focus and speak. And within, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes, I had settled down and calmed down again. But I imagine that this kind of thing, and if you speak to actors, professional performers, people do from time to time get bursts of nerves. The old stage actor from years ago, the very famous old stage actor, Laurence Olivier, was famous for once giving a whole performance, I don't know if it was of Hamlet or some play, with his back to the audience, because he just had such nerves. And that was quite late on in his career. That was an established, highly respected actor who just got a burst of nerves. So it happens to people from time to time. And it does. And what I would say is it kind of locks into what you were saying about Laurence Olivier there, because
sometimes there is no rhyme or reason about it. Sometimes our brains, our minds just put something on us. So, for instance, you presented the hypnotherapy course several times, got lots of experience, and I know that I know personally that you're a very good public speaker. But sometimes you can be caught by the grip of some, almost random, seemingly random thoughts, or random feelings of nerves. And, the thing is that I think we're all so hell-bent on finding, a protocol, a system, a modus operandi, that is infallible. And so when we have this, we think, I'm now good at public speaking. And then all of a sudden when we do have nerves or something, it kind of rocks the boat. And it's like, oh, this isn't supposed to happen. This means, my boat's leaking and I'm going to sink. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to that, just not making your feelings, not making your thoughts all that important. Mm-hmm. And reminding yourself that actually, they're just, a sense of, gustatory or, emotional sensations. They're just little bits of your body having biological and chemical interactions, and yeah, of course, we don't operate like this all the time, otherwise we'd be, completely devoid of any kind of emotion. But when we need to, it's useful to remember that, feeling will always pass, whether it's a good feeling or whether it's a bad feeling. And so let's not get quite so het up about the feeling. Let's be able to observe that. Let's be able to let that feeling be. It will pass. Give it, I was looking at some research, and I think the graph of a feeling is about 90 seconds. It will come up, there'll be a peak, and then there'll be a drop. And, I run a little mindfulness class on a Tuesday evening in a local community association hall. It's quite sweet. But, I'm saying to people, you've got this, a bunch of very dry, sort of like tinder, and you've got, like petrol, and you can, on the fire, and you can pour petrol on the fire. And by engaging with these sets of feelings and these sets of thoughts and going into that anxiety cycle, you're only going to make the fire grow even bigger. Whereas, certainly coming from more of the mindfulness slant, it's, almost like just observe that for what it is and without judgment. A does not mean B unless you deem it that A means B. Oh, I'm feeling like this, therefore I'm going to give a crap talk, is only as true as you invest belief and energy into that. I know that sounds so hippie, but do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. One thing that occurs to me is the accepting of a feeling. I mean, so many people have found that this can be a transformative thing in and of itself, just welcoming a feeling, allowing it to be there. But it doesn't need to be done in a really, really po-faced, holier-than-thou, hippie kind of way at all. It doesn't have to be, I notice the anxiety. I allow the anxiety to be. It doesn't have to be. You can laugh as well as you do it. I again, remembering the anxiety I felt that fresh year of the hypnotherapy course, when the new students arrived. I was laughing at myself as well. There was serious anxiety there, and I thought, what the hell is this? Yeah. And in that, in being able to have some levity, some playfulness around it, what is going on here? That's of curiosity and humor. I was both detached from it, but not rejecting it.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying I shouldn't be feeling this way, punching myself in the stomach, saying go away, anxiety. You can acknowledge how you feel, and you can allow it to be there, but you can also have a sense of humor, and you can have a sense of determination as well. There's something that comes, there's acceptance commitment therapy, which is a form of therapy that kind of really lays out the steps of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, where you accept what you feel and then you commit to acting in a way that's in accord with your values. So, okay, I'm having butterflies right now, and it's nice that they're there. Hello, butterflies. It's nice to be human, and I'm going to commit to giving this speech to the best of my abilities. So feeling it and still doing what your job is a real art and something that we can all get better at, but it's a really profound way of dealing with fear in any situation and works very, very well for public speaking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's this idea that, you know, when you're learning to drive and, you know, on your first lesson or your second lesson or your third lesson and you're driving and you stall the car and you kangaroo the car and, you know, the car goes, and, you know, you feel a bit of a fool. You don't just stop. You don't just go, right, toys out the pram. I'm never learning to drive. That's it. You know, you just get on with it. Why? Because there's a whole, you know, bunch of cars behind you. So, okay, so sometimes you are going to maybe be a bit nervous, but the more you just get on with it, and focus on and not even focus on the task in hand, just do the task in hand, the more you will just start, the sooner you will just start effectively sort of channeling. It's a bit of a, you know, potent word, so we say, but just start doing the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like before you have, you know, I mean, as a former athlete, you know, before you have fights, you know, there's nerves. But once you're in the fight and you've got somebody who's either trying to, you know, punch your face off or choke you out or whatever, you know, the nerves are gone because you're like, I've got more important things to worry about. You know, it's almost like, you know, that funny phrase that people say, you know, recently, oh, first world problems, you know, oh, what colour nail varnish shall I wear? You know, as I'm trying to wrestle my assailant to the ground. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So it's about just allowing ourselves to just sort of like shut the hell up and get on with the task in hand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does, because I think there is shutting the hell up, and it sounds quite an abrupt way of saying it, but that a lot of the problem with public speaking anxiety is there's too much going on in people's minds, to whether they're conscious of it or not.
Of course,
I mean, I don't think I was aware of having really racing thoughts that time that I was talking about getting anxious. That it seemed to be more of a sort of stimulus response thing of just a sea of faces and but still, from working with a lot of people, you know, as I'm a hypnotherapist and I've treated lots of people for public speaking anxiety, still at some level there does seem to be a sense of a cluttered racing mind that you might not even be fully conscious of oh my god, am I going to be able to do this, am I going to be, so a lot of busy thoughts. Having a way to relax with those, having a way to calm those down is really, really effective. Now, one thing I wanted to share is a technique that you can use in advance of giving a talk, in advance of giving a presentation. It's a form of self-hypnosis, but it's very, very easy to do. Doesn't require going into any deep altered state. It's really a form of mental preparation, mental rehearsal, just like athletes use. And the technique that I've used, that I've recommended to lots of people, is in essence create a greatest hits tape for yourself. And that might be of times you've succeeded at public speaking in the past, but it might not be. It might be of times that you've enjoyed chatting with a group of friends. It might be. So in other words, you can actually, the more you take this as a genuine exercise and actually do the steps rather than just a nice idea to ponder for a few seconds, if you actually do this, then it really starts to have an effect on the brain and on the nervous system. So the best way to make sure you do it as a concrete series of steps, because I'm just giving it to you as a technique here, is to write it down. To write down, let's say, 3 memories to begin with, 3 positive memories of you speaking with friends and feeling comfortable speaking with friends. Just, you know, so right, all right, that time when I was with so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so in that restaurant or at that so-and-so's house. There's a positive memory. Write it down, number 1. Number 2, write down a time when you felt in flow. when you were engaged in a hobby, playing a game, any situation where you really enjoy doing what you're doing. If you enjoy windsurfing, let it be windsurfing. If you enjoy reading novels by a particular author, let it be the last time you were reading that novel. A time you felt fully engaged, a time you felt fully in flow. And then, another one for number 3, just an achievement, a success, something that you were really proud of. Maybe a time you overcame an obstacle, you passed an exam, you achieved something at work or a creative project, and write that down. And then the exercise is very simple. You close your eyes and you take yourself into each of those memories one by one. You see what you saw, you hear what you heard, you remember the time speaking comfortably with friends, you remember the time when you were in flow, engaged in a hobby or doing something where you just felt so immersed in what you were doing. You remember the achievement. And then from that state, by just drinking in and absorbing in a mindful way, you could call it as much. I mean, all these terms, they merge into one another.
Of course.
You could call it a mindfulness exercise. Mindfully take yourself into and appreciate these 3 positive experiences. You can add a few more in there as well, so that you start to build up a state of feeling socially free and connected to people, a state of feeling in flow, a state of feeling like you can accomplish things, like you can do things. And then just run through in your mind, like you're watching it on a TV screen, how you want the talk to go. You can see yourself speaking confidently. You can see yourself having succeeded at it, having gone well, having overcome any nerves, having surprised yourself by how well you spoke. And, it doesn't have to be some deep, otherworldly, trance-like experience. It can be a very simple, practical exercise. Yeah. And there are studies that show that doing this kind of work, drinking in positive experiences, absorbing them, and positive mental rehearsal of things going well, of yourself performing in a way that's optimal, does measurably improve your performance. So you can do you could call it psyching yourself up if you want, a name for the exercise, but you do it in a step-by-step methodical way. You take about 10 minutes to do it. It doesn't need to be immediately before the event. It could be the day before or a week before, but it's a step-by-step process of doing a form of self-hypnosis on yourself to get your whole mind, body, your unconscious mind, everything in alignment so that you're ready to speak at your best. No, that's one thing I'd share.
I mean, as you know, I work with a lot of people for performance, specifically athletes, and that's very similar to the kind of things that I will have them do. And it's just common sense. If you think about, if you were going to go to a wedding, you wouldn't be watching Schindler's List the morning before, because it depress the life out of you. It'd be ridiculous. So, it makes sense. Well, if I want to go and do something where I want to have a good performance, the best way that you're going to do that is by connecting to your best self, like you said, the greatest hits tape, and to do that both from in a way where you're almost like watching a movie of yourself, and also having that somatic, having that physical experience of it, and again, sort of just sprinkle a little bit of mindfulness on there, I suppose, in so much so that don't judge yourself on your performance in the rehearsal. Do you know what I mean? Because I work with some athletes, and they'll go, okay, so I'll say, oh, how are you doing? Have you been doing your mental rehearsal? I'm like, yeah, but it hasn't been going brilliantly. So they're not only are they judging themselves on their actual performance, but they're judging themselves on the mental rehearsal as well. It's just wherever the brain can find a leak, it'll find a leak, or it'll spring a leak. So adding into this idea of allowing that experience to be whatever it is, and that's it, is also a really useful thing to do. And so those things that you were saying are, here's the thing. They absolutely work if you practice them.
Yeah.
If you don't practice them, they're just a nice idea, Yeah. And it's the same with, any kind of formal meditations, any formal mindfulness practice or whatever. with any pursuit, you're not going to get at martial arts just by watching kung fu movies. It's just not going to happen. So
my memory of my life, when I think back, but it's difficult to know for sure, but as I recall, when I was 16 or 17 or 18 years old, first getting into all of this kind of stuff, I found it so difficult to actually do mental rehearsal, to do self-hypnosis, to do meditation. I kept trying, and I kept trying, and I kept trying, but I did not experience vivid 3D surround sound visualizations in my mind of myself succeeding at a public talk. When I close my eyes, things are pretty dark, and when I visualize things, they're a little bit vague sometimes. And that's okay, because I still know the events that happen to me, and the more, if you take the time, I mean, the thing is, I've learned to more deeply relax. I've learned to more access positive, resourceful states in myself. I've learned to access a more mindful, witnessing, present state through repeated practice. But even just doing a little bit of this helps. And if the fact that you can chat with someone and reminisce about a happy memory that you had, happy experience that you shared 10 years ago, and both of you go, oh yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, you remember when so-and-so did that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I can't believe we did that. You both get connected into the memory.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's all we're talking about here. It's not about going into a transcendental state of, it's remember a few times and really get yourself into those positive experiences. And then just set an intent for yourself. You can even try, one way of doing it is to remember it having gone well, to remember the talk having gone well. Oh yeah, that went well. I enjoyed that time 5 years ago. I enjoyed that, experience with friends. I really succeeded at doing that. And then just take yourself a week or two into the future and look back and say, oh, and I remember that talk really going well. I really surprised myself with how well I performed in that talk. So that could be a nice, slightly different angle on this technique of just letting it be about remembering things having gone well, both things that really did already, that really have gone well in your life, and then just nudging yourself into the future and remembering this talk or this presentation having gone better than you expected, not in a superhuman, glossy, unrealistic, everything pristine kind of way, but just in a human, natural, engaging, positively surprising kind of way. And I think you'll be surprised at the results, especially if you keep doing this and keep internalizing it and practicing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I remember, I used to have a really, it's not, I wouldn't say like a fear of public speaking. I just wouldn't ever sort of entertain the idea of doing it. And I remember I was arranging, a chap who does a certain specific kind of therapy, and he was teaching this therapy. I kind of arranged the course, and once he sort of found out that I actually would, oh my God, I would die if I'd be up there talking, he was like, it's like when you see, in theatres, they've got that long kind of, it's like sort of shepherd's hook that they sort of like, it was like dragged me up, and it dragged me up on stage, and he did a process with me. And, I have to say it was, it was absolutely transformative, and part of it was, confusion, part of it was scrambling, kind of my old, outdated sort of beliefs I had about my abilities, but it was really useful, and I think within about a couple of weeks I was doing some public speaking, delivering a training to, I think it was like, I think it wasn't 100, it was like 98 dentists, and that was quite daunting, and it was quite surreal for me, because I thought I should be feeling extremely nervous about this, and I was actually fine. And it was almost like there's something missing. What have I forgotten? Oh, I've forgotten to get anxious. I've forgotten to get nervous and stuff like that. So these kind of processes they can be absolutely invaluable. They really can be. One, I suppose, technique, one intervention that's not really an intervention that I would share would be really just something which is, it's a non-technique, because it's really just breathing, but it's a specific way of breathing. It's a way of breathing mindfully. So, for instance, let's say you are about to give your talk, and maybe you're feeling, like you're in that kind of nervous state. Well, if you just analyze your breathing in that moment, I guarantee you're not doing deep, slow, oxygenating breaths. You're going to be, having almost like shallow breaths, almost like panting. And that in and of itself, it's like, if you don't put petrol in the car ain't never going to run. So it's about, okay, so we have to fuel our, sort of nervous system and our body with the immediate source of energy, our breath. So really, first and foremost is breathing in deeply, and breathing in a way which I can't really demonstrate it here because of, I'm on this silly little webcam, but imagining you're breathing into your stomach, so that as you breathe in, you push your stomach out. So you breathe in, you push your stomach out, and then you'd breathe into your chest, and then you'd allow your throat and your windpipe to fill out. And then as you're doing that, as you're doing the breathing, you're going to put your attention and your awareness, all of it, on the breath and the cycle of the breath. That's all you're doing. Yeah, I say that's all you're doing, but, obviously it requires you to put aside any kind of thoughts that you're doing, and just for the length, for the duration of that breath, you're just tracking, you don't have to sort of breathe like a guru or anything like that. Just maybe breathe, if you are feeling nervous, I don't know, breathe a little bit deeper. I mean, I'm not saying, you need to say Om or anything like that, but, it will, after you do, I mean, I did this last night with a room full of people, and, after 10 breaths, a couple of minutes, it will oxygenate your body. I mean, there was a couple, there was one lady, bless her, and it's the first time she's ever done anything like this. She goes, I'm feeling quite giggly and feeling almost like quite high. And I was like, well, you're energizing, you're oxygenating your body. The other things that you can do to almost to augment this is to, if you do struggle to follow the breath as it comes in slightly cooler through the nostrils, going through the windpipe, into your chest and lungs. If you do struggle with that, then breathe in a word, like, in mindfulness terms and meditation sort of terms, we'd say the word mantra, but you call it whatever you like. It could be your trigger word or something like that, more than sort of an NLP type speak. So you're going to think of a word like calm or peace or positivity or energy or whatever it is. And as you breathe in, you're going to imagine breathing in that word. And it makes, perfect sense, as you've kind of like mentioned earlier, to use all your imagination and your abilities of mind to imagine yourself being washed in that peace. Just imagine you were feeling that, and to breathe cycles of that in that kind of rhythmic kind of way, in that soothing kind of way. And before you know it, you will be in a different state. You will be in a different state. What was the other thing I was going to say? There's one further thing that you can do, one further little hack. And I was doing it last night, and it's something that I actually find quite difficult, and that is by wearing a Mona Lisa smile, right? So now I find it quite difficult to just sort of go like that. I just feel like it feels awkward for me, and I feel like maybe, with all my kind of like, insecurities or whatever, maybe people think I'm weak, or, I don't know, just weird stuff going on. So what I do is I will do a great big cheesy grin like this, and then I find it easier to come back to this kind of serene kind of half smile. And if you can breathe and hold that serene, you might even feel fake or a fraud while you're doing it, but I guarantee that will change your internal experience. If you hold that smile and you breathe in that word of peace or joy or calm or whatever it is in deep breaths, I would challenge anyone for it to not change not change their experience. You know, to sit or stand in a dignified way. I mean, these are really powerful kind of concepts, and they're so. Here's the thing: they're so simple, they're almost too easy. You know, and so people think, oh, I'm breathing, I'll do that anyway. Yeah, but you probably haven't done it like this before, and if you have, I guarantee, then it would have changed your state. Yeah. I find it impossible for it to not change my state. So yeah,
and from change, I mean, there's amazing stuff there that and there's so much research that's been done into this the last few years as well. Just when people hold a pencil in their mouth,
it's ridiculous.
That shifts their mindset and their state when they do psychological evaluations versus when their mouths are like that, because that unconsciously primes the body to be more serious and perhaps slightly more negative than having the ridiculous, fake smile caused by a pencil being there. Anyhow, loads of stuff in all of that. But the point is, when you make those physical adjustments, your breathing, your facial muscles, your posture, even if they're subtle changes, it then feels much more natural. It's like it opens the doors to being much more willing to enjoy the whole experience, to say, you're all right, let's enjoy this. And I think that Mona Lisa smile, I love the idea of you walking around all day with a Mona Lisa smile out.
What's more worrying is I have to do the Joker, Richter. I have to do that first. So I make sure, doing my little mindfulness groups, everyone close your eyes. And then I'm sort of going with their eyes closed, which is probably a little bit creepy. But,
you must have really scared those dentists at the start of that talk, too.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. But no, of course, these are exercises that can be done in the moment when you've practiced them in advance first. So by doing these breathing exercises, by doing these postural changes the day before, an hour before, 10 minutes before, it then becomes much, much easier to just subtly have that felt sense inside of your face becoming a little bit more of a smile, your posture becoming more upright, your breathing smoothing, and having this focused determination of, right, let's do this. Oh, hello, there are still a few butterflies in my stomach. But it doesn't matter.
I almost sort of think that, by having that sort of almost like that little smile, you still might have a sense of nerves, but you would go into that talk sort of going, wow, I'm really nervous about this talk. I hope it's okay. And sort of, so you'll soften everything. I remember reading, I can't remember which book it was, but there was a chap who was really nervous about public speaking, and the intervention that the therapist or whatever did was, just go and tell people that you're speaking to how nervous you are. And so you go, oh, actually, I'm really nervous, and and he did this, and it got people on side with him. But what you notice is that by effectively just not kind of trying to be something other than he was, it kind of went away. After about 2 or 3 times, you're just like, this is the bit where I usually say how I'm really nervous, but I'm not. So that's weird. And again, it's almost like the less credence, the less attention you sort of give these thoughts and feelings and your responses to those, and just get on with doing what you're doing, is, oftentimes the better experience you're going to have,
Great stuff, Al. Right, whatever time limit we were meant to have for this call, we've, I think, certainly filled. So, yes. But it's been a real pleasure talking to you, as ever.
You too. Always.
And if you, people watching this, you in particular, if you'd like to find out more about what we've been talking about, if you'd like to find out more about the coaching and the hypnotherapy work that we offer, and if you'd like to find out more about these specific techniques of mental rehearsal, of mindfulness exercises, take a look at the link under this video, or the techniques that we've written under this video, and you can find out more at changeworkers.com. And there will be more videos like this to come. So, as they say, subscribe to this channel. Okay. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.